This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, and welcome to our overview of the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 Unified Planning Work Program. I'm Monica Haynes-Benketta, the Public Involvement Coordinator at the Baltimore Metropolitan Council. I'm joined today by Regina Aris, Assistant Director for Transportation. To begin, I wanted to share an overview of the Baltimore Metropolitan Council. BMC is the Regional Council of Governments for the Baltimore metropolitan area. Key areas of work are transportation planning, environmental coordination, community planning, and cooperative purchasing. BMC is the host agency for the Baltimore Regional Transportation Board, and as such, BMC staff provide technical support to the BRTB. The BRTB is the federally established metropolitan planning organization for the region. The BRTB is made up of 13 members, including the cities of Annapolis and Baltimore, as well as the counties of Anne Arundel, Baltimore, Carroll, Harford, Howard, and Queen Anne's. Several state agencies also serve on the BRTB, as does a local transit provider, which is currently Annapolis Transit. And now I'm going to turn it over to Regina Aris to talk about the BRTB's annual budget and work program, also known as the UPWP. Regina?
Great, thank you, Monica. Hi, Regina Aris. So today we're going to give you a short overview of what is entailed with this document. Why should you look at it? So we have a formal name, a Unified Planning Work Program, UPWP. We call it a work program, and it is a description of our work that identifies the planning priorities and activities that the Baltimore Regional Transportation Board wants to carry out within the metropolitan planning area. This document includes a description of the work and the product. It will also tell you who performs the work, the time frame for completing the work, the cost, and the source of funds. The projects identified provide insight and recommendations to our partners, those jurisdictions and state agencies that Monica described. They generate new data and help shape concepts for our region's transportation future. The Baltimore Regional Transportation Board develops a full work program every 2 years. This time it's the fiscal year 2022-2023 work program. Every year we have a 30-day public review and comment opportunity. And then after the comment period, the board will respond to any comments. And then we usually try to send this document to the BRTB in April. When it's approved in April, we send it to those federal agencies, the Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration, and that allows them to review the document before the start of the fiscal year and, very importantly, approve the budget that allows us to start charging to the grant. Next slide. So here is a snapshot of the budget. Under the U.S. Department of Transportation are two major organizations, the Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration. Those two programs provide funding assistance, to help urbanized areas plan for the development, improvement, and effective management of our multimodal transportation system. The overall budget begins on page 84 of the document and covers the first year, fiscal 2022, and then moves to the second year. That second year has much less specificity because the funding for that year has not been announced yet by the federal agencies. As you can see on this chart, the bulk of the money goes to BMC staff to perform the work. Another portion of money goes to consultants that help staff in areas that we may not have expertise. Then there's also a line called local support, and that is where this work to be implemented by our members needs the support of our members. And that in fiscal 2022 results in a $9 million budget. And as I said, we don't know the funding for fiscal 23, so we have a placeholder. Next year, what we'll do is publicize a much smaller document that updates consultant work only. So next slide, please. Every year, the core of the document is this core work program. And in the table of contents, you will see these headings that describe the type of work that BMC staff engage in. All of this work is contained between pages 20 and 80, and you can find those topics of interest linked in the table of contents. Program management and coordination, this is primarily the oversight of the work program and our consultants. Planning context refers to work associated with our long-range transportation plan and our short-range transportation improvement program. Promoting inclusiveness and cooperation entails our public involvement work and our transportation equity planning. Gathering and analyzing data includes GIS, or Geographic Information Systems, which is a lot of mapping, socioeconomic development monitoring, which allows us to understand when permits are issued for residential, commercial properties. We do a lot of data analysis of trends. We have a travel demand model, and we have the applications of our model. Safety and security refers to personal safety around crashes and injuries. We have systems management here, and we have emergency management. Mobility, accessibility, and connectivity. In this area, we look at system performance. We look at bike and pedestrian planning, transit and human service planning, as well as freight planning. And then under protecting current and future resources, there's air quality analysis, since we are in non-attainment of the National Ambient Air Quality Standards, and environmental planning. Next slide. And then this last section that I'm going to cover, the core areas refer to work that we do on an ongoing basis. These new focus areas are reflected in Appendix B, which begins on page 92, and they are areas that our board has asked us to focus on in the near term. So several years ago, the board approved a Patapsco Regional Greenway, and we are assisting our members by beginning the initial planning work, and we've been asked to begin work on a third segment in this next work program. We're also developing a competitive grant program for small planning projects that improve access to existing communities or regional generators of economic activity, and that will continue in this next year. Recently, MDOT MTA completed a regional transit plan, and they identified quite a few corridors for future service. MTA and the Baltimore Regional Transportation Board have agreed to each conduct analysis of a number of corridors to assist with that rollout. To support our safety work, we are going to do some mapping of crash data that will allow us to detect problem areas and develop solutions for all of our members in the region. Another one is this transportation dashboard. It is a way to provide data for our members in a visual format, and a lot of it relates to transportation data, unemployment claims, a lot of issues that came up during this current COVID crisis that allows members to understand what changes have taken place. This planning review process is a new topic. We are going to have a consultant talk with each of our member jurisdictions who each have their own unique process for submitting and reviewing land development proposals and permits. The purpose of this is to understand the process in each jurisdiction and how the focus on transportation issues are considered in each process. And finally, this climate change toolkit, we are currently involved in a task that is looking at the impacts of our changing climate on our transportation infrastructure and in public works. And we find there are some issues that we didn't account for that we'd like to follow up on in the next year. I believe that concludes my section, and we're going to turn it back over to Monica.
Thanks, Regina, for that excellent overview. As part of its public engagement process, the BRTB has released its draft UPWP for a 30-day comment period starting February 9th and running through March 11th. On March 23rd, all the comments will be presented to the BRTB for their consideration. A final version of the UPWP will be presented to the BRTB for a vote on April 16th. Once approved, work can begin on July 1st. To share your thoughts on the draft UPWP, please send an email to comments@baltometro.org, use our online comment form at baltometro.org, share via Twitter, or send us a fax. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to one of us. Again, comments are welcome through March 11th, 2021. Thanks for joining us to learn more about the BRTB's work program and budget.
Thank you.